Oh, hello there. Yes, well, the weekend it is. Sunday, day of rest, day of church. Yeah, freezing cold church parades. Ooh, no thank you. Anyway, leaving all that aside, yes, yesterday we had one of those perfect encapsulations of the appallingness that is the appallingness that is the appallingness of British media. GB News is resident academic. Must be an academic because he's written academic things in the past. The rest of us don't count. Anyway, yeah, him. I was on GB News and went into one of those kind of like State of the Nation addresses, which addressed all of the economic things that are wrong with the country, and then proceeded to have a discussion with, well, some of your usual suspects like Rafe and Rent a Woman Who's Right Wing times two, which immediately veered into how dreadful brown people are and why are they all here. Which got me thinking about the whole thing about the way that we are being very, very, very led by a nose by certain individuals like, well, Mr. Paul Marshall, who of course owns GB News. But a cursory look at Mr. Paul Marshall, who owns GB News and The Spectator, will bring up a very, very series of interesting things about him, because although he says that he's a classical liberal, I always take that to mean that it's somebody who is basically right-wing but doesn't want to admit quite how far. He did get into trouble, if you recall, a short while ago with certain tweets that appeared to be, well, less than savoury from him. But he has a very checkered past, because he was originally a funder of the Lib Dems, who, before being sort of caught up in the black hole, gravity speak-wise, that is Brexit, and eventually ending up where he is, which is basically forking out 40+ million quid to pump out propaganda for the Reform Party. Now, what that says to me is somebody that has no real moral compass at all. He is just interested in wealth and power, and perhaps not fame in his case. But therefore, what are we to make of Matt Goodwin, who appears to be pretty much the same thing? If you go back to some of his academic writings from over 10 years ago, he was writing about the right wing and wasn't necessarily very complimentary about it, particularly sort of populist extremist parties, PEPs as he used to call them back in 2011. But we do get fed this stuff, and it just, I don't know, I just find it very, very odd, because you can't puncture this particular bubble. The Telegraph, oh thank God it hasn't been sold to bad foreigners, it's been sold to good foreigners or something, also does the same sort of thing, whereby it will present you with some blindingly obvious bits of economics, like neoliberalism hasn't worked for 40 years, and then pivot to something completely different from that, which might lead one to believe that the people that are pulling the purse strings are the ones that are deciding exactly what the content is. You can make up your own minds about that, but it sticks in the craw when Matt Goodwin will bang on about media elites, but he never actually manages to join the dots all the way up to the person that pays him money. Yes. And of course, you know, those rare times that people do go on GB News and mention Mr. PM himself, my God, doesn't it fluster them? You may recall Mr. Walker from Navarra Media, who was on about 2 years ago. That basically led to people in the studio melting because he raised this very, very particular point. Yeah. We are owned, the media is owned by a handful of key individuals who will decide exactly what we see. And they might well decide that it's very, very important that Andrew Doyle sits there and the rest of them lecturing you about free speech. But by God, they don't believe in that. Or, as it realistically transpires, anything else at all other than the bottom line. And I don't really want to be told moral tales about certain people being bad by people that have no moral compass. Thank you very much. Anyway, do have a glorious day. Do stay dry. By God, it's all pre-spring stuff again, isn't it? It's all a little bit disappointing. Still, I don't care. I got free time. Yeah. I'm going to be bored, aren't I? Anyway, do have a lovely day if you can, and if you can't, well, I'm sorry about that, even though it's probably not my fault, let's face it. Have a lovely one. Go to church.